Hey everyone, how are you? Good evening. Today we're going to talk about another basic foundation knowledge, which is aggregator and iterator. Let's jump right in. So here I have a little bit demonstration on the left hand side. Basically, there's a two category of the DAX function that you need to learn from. One is the aggregator, the other one is the iterator. Maybe when you look at those names, you are not familiar with them, but they're pretty easy to digest. Aggregator is anything that you aggregate and sum into one value. The practice can be a sum, average, or mean, or max. Whatever you do is you're looking at a data set, you try to compress them into one single value. That's basically what aggregator do. So if I try to show you what is aggregator, here I have a measure put into a card visual. The measure name is total quantity sold. If we go into the data pane, try to locate the logic of this measure is that they're using a sum. So sum is one of the aggregator that you can easily learn from. Basically, we just need one parameters, which you point it to a column from a table. That's it. Just make sure that everything here can be summed as a numeric figure. You can't sum a text, whatever, but the quantity is okay. So here we return the complete total quantity sold for the whole period that data contains, which means that 620K is referring to the total quantity sold for the whole company. Disregard what period. All period that has been ingested in that will contribute to this figure. So basically, that's where you use the sum. You can replace this with mean, max, average. You'll get a similar result. So the logic stays the same. Okay. Instead of talking about that kind of simple thing, we're going to talk about a little bit complex concept, which is iterator. Iterator is one type of aggregator, but they do things differently. What happened to this? Think about that. You have a table, which is a sales table. And in that table, you have several things. For example, if I try to bring everything from the order detail table, first you order line item, and then you have product ID, you have net price, and the unit and the quantity. So basically, in your order detail table, you have basically three elements. So first, tell you the line ID, which is the order detail ID. Second, which product has been assigned to this row, and for that product, what is the quantity, and also what is the net price, right? So if we drag this over here, we swap the direction of the quantity and net price. So for each of the row, you have order detail ID, product ID, net price, and quantity. In order to calculate the total sales for the current line, what we need to do is we need to use the net price column times quantity for the row only. So your calculation to calculate the total sales actually consists of two steps. First, we're going to use this net price times quantity to preserve value over here. And then for the second row, I'm going to use the same logic, net price times quantity, reserve the price here. And then I'm going to do this calculation row by row until the last row. And then I sum everything together to return a total sales. That's how we calculate the total sales in Excel, right? In Excel, it's pretty easy. You just write this cell times this cell and drag this down, and then you sum the whole column, you get a value, right? Even in Excel, you have two steps. So here we need to perform two steps. What is our first step? The first step is to access the individual row. And then once I know which row I'm at, then I'm going to perform the calculation, which is net price times quantity. Now let's look at the total sales, how it's being calculated. We know that we can't simply just use here the aggregator to achieve that, because aggregator doesn't allow you to do any additional performance. Any additional calculation is not allowed in this simple aggregator. So what DAX cope with this situation is they create iterators. Here is the iterator. So every aggregator, their counterpart with an X as the suffix will be the iterator for that aggregator. So here is the iterator, which is SUMX. This is the aggregator. This is the iterator for the sum. Okay, let's look at that. When you write a SUMX or any iterator, you need just two essential components. The first is which table I'm gonna going to access row by row. Second, once I have that row pointer or precision, what kind of calculation you try to perform. And after that, each value returned from each row of this calculation will be aggregated by a sum to return the total sales value. So let's repeat the process of this iterator, how it works at this order detail table. So first, it accesses the order detail table, and then right now it's at the row 1. It will use this to calculate the current row. So I know the net price for this row is 98.97. And also I know for current row, the quantity is 1. I finish that calculation. I preserve the value here. And then I go into the second row to do the same performance. And then we're going through row by row until I finish to the last row. And then after that, this iterator will in charge of aggregate the whole column, the new column, visible, invisible column, add them together, return the total sales. So if I drag this net sales into here, you can see exactly how it's been calculated. For example, for this row, it's used this one times this one, preserve the value here. This one times this one, preserve the value here. And you can see it's not only working on the row level, but also on the aggregate level is still correct. That's the beauty of SUMX. So let's just delay this example. Let's figure out another situation to use iterator, which is way better solution than any other things. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the average delivery day for each of the order. Right now, we're not looking at the order detail table. Instead, we're looking at order because order table has two essential informations. One is the delivery day, the other one is the order day. So the difference between a delivery day and order day is the actual day spent on the delivery, right? So the simple solution for that is we need to calculate two things. First, we need to calculate the difference between the delivery date and order day. Second, once I have that individual value ready, I'm going to use average, which is a simple aggregator, to calculate the average. So let's jump right in. Right now, I can create a new column. Here will be the calculate column. So for the calculate column, I can say days to deliver. Here, make sure we use the proper format. I'm going to use the hash sign to indicate it's going to return a numeric figure. So this one, since this is the new column, you can see there's a column with some icon over here. So this is the calculate column. For this calculate column, I'm going to access. Remember, we talk about in the row context, whenever you create a calculate column, the row context is enabled naturally by default. So we already have the row context, so they know that which delivery day minus which order day. So we can just use delivery day minus which is the order date. Maybe I need to order, find the order date. Yes. Okay, I hit enter. Then I drag this, let's just name this as a version 1. So I drag this into here. And also we need to define this kind of, because it's a daytime, we don't want that. So just whole number. Okay. And the whole number, the format are gonna be not be auto. We're gonna just return this to 0. Okay. So if we order this by different order. You can see most of them take like say less than 2 weeks, but some of them like say they have 19, 17 days. That's okay. So this is our version 1. We calculate this one to say what is the difference between the delivery date and the order date. And then based on this calculated column that we just created, we're going to use a measure instead to calculate the average. So we're going to say average is the hash sign average delivered day equal to. So here we're going to just simply use average. And before we use average, I like to go through the description of the average. Return average of all the numbers in a column. Right? So here we just tap through. The column name is going to be the new calculate column, days to deliver version 1, right? Days to deliver version 1. We close that onto that. Okay, now we drag this average day in. Okay, we change that to a table. Make sure the average delivery day here we got the right format. So here we just can be a decimal number. Why? Because on our row base we may have some thing come up. So let's look at the average order day at the row level. At the row level, we can tell is the same. Why is that? Because remember that at each of the row, you actually trigger a filter context. So this will limit the average, the base of the calculation. That's why for each of row is equal to the difference of the day because it's just divided by 1. But overall, that's where the power of average is average the whole column by the count of the rows. So that's how it works, right? So right now we calculate this average day over row, but we're using a calculate column here. We just do it in baby steps. There's some cons about using a calculate column, which first increase the size of your model is a downside. Second, it's make your calculation a little bit clunky if you have too many calculate columns. So the number one rule to deliver a beautiful model in Power BI is if you cannot use calculate column, just don't use it. Try your best to limit the usage of calculate column. So here we're going to provide a second solution. So we have go through the first one, which 2 steps, calculate the difference between the delivery date and order date. Second, we use a simple aggregator to aggregate the new column, and then on a total level is return the value of the average day to leader. Now let's try to use aggregator because we know that there's a 2 calculation happen. First, we need to access each row to use delivery day minus order day. Second, after that calculation is done, we're going to take the whole column, the whole new value column, and then try to do an average. So it's a perfect situation for us to use an iterator. In this time, we're going to use the counterpart iterator of the sum, which is of the average, which is AVERAGEX. So here we can deliver another new measure. So it's going to be the average days to deliver. Just say days to deliver. Let's make this more accurate. Average deliver day version 2. Okay. So for the average deliver day version 2, what we're going to do is we're going to use AVERAGEX. Let's read the description about that. Calculate average of a set of expression. Expression is where you add additional calculation before the average happen. Remember? Then we tap through. You can see it requires you to put into two parameters. One is the table, second is the calculation or the expression. Table is going to be the order table, and the expression is going to be using the delivery day minus the order day. This one, and then we close this one. So we access the row of the order table. For each of the row of the order table, we're going to go through this calculation first. And then after this is done for each of the row of the order table, we put them together to calculate average. We hit enter. Let's change this name to a more precise one, version 1. Now they're perfectly aligned together. So for this version 2, format is not going to be a general. We know it's a decimal. You can put it over here. I'll change this to a table. Now you can see I have exact the same result for each of the row of those two versions, but overall I also got it right for 1.3 days to deliver all the orders on average. So let's take a look of these two different methods. So first, we use baby steps because our probably the killer is about using a simple aggregator. So we have to deliver a first physical column, which is a calculate column first, calculate the difference between the order day and also delivery day. That's where you have this calculate column. You increase the size of the model, but we achieve the result by using a simple aggregator. The second method is we don't take the space at all because measure calculate on the fly. We do a little bit toggle around to have this internal calculation enabled for each row before we do the calculation of average. So that's the beauty of using iterator. So those concepts are all related together. You can't have a single shot to have everything understand. You just need to take baby steps. Here is the foundation of understanding DAX measure and the mechanism behind that. Hope you enjoyed this video and see you guys in the next one.